Let's do some lighting breakdowns of 3 different looks in one location. This is actually an apartment, zero pre-production. Let's jump into it. Now my friend director Nick and I decided to create some interesting lighting effects in his apartment. When I first got to the location and I started looking around, I realized that the sun, as we were trying to create kind of a high-key vibe morning look, the sun was not in our favor. We needed that hard light to punch through the window, and as soon as I pulled out the Sunseeker app, I realized it was going to take us about an hour to kind of like see it push through. So I figured I'd just start modeling that with my 600D from outside. Now when I set up the 600D, it was pretty obvious that, you know, one, we have a light source outside, but it kind of felt like it was the sun. The only big drawback is that the light color that we were getting in, the Kelvin, was a little warmer than my daylight 600D. Now if I would have had a 600X, that would have been amazing and I could have just blended it, but this was something I was kind of able to play with in post. So the 600D, again, we're in an apartment complex on the 2nd floor. There's a really tiny small hallway where I was able to put my combo stand. It was kind of janky, not extremely safe. I wasn't too happy with it, but we did what we could. Now the light, I played having it on the right side first since it was closer to the door, but the sun was kind of beaming through the left side. Figured I didn't want to cross my keys or the direction of the light that was hitting the apartment, so I just flipped it to the other side and it was able to kind of play more as the sun. Now this was actually shot on the Sony FX6 and I believe I had not the contacts. I had the Zeiss Jenna lenses and I think it was the 20 or the 35mm, I cannot remember. Now we were going for a really wide frame, which we wanted the entire window in this shot, and I actually wanted to test out some shear and see what it would kind of do. But the shear, it was just going to be in frame and it just wasn't going to work out because of the wide angle that we had. Now I finally got to use this insane hazer that I got for free, I will say that, and it's actually really cool. I love that it's so compact and it pretty much filled the entire room as good as my bigger hazer would have done. I bought the bigger hazer because I wanted haze in my images, but it's just so big to pack in my van sometimes. This little pocket size one, it's literally the size of a can. So it's so insane that this can actually fill up a room. Now we wanted that hard trail of light, you know, when you punch right through the window and you can just see the separation of the light beams. And for this you have to backlight it, but you have to backlight it with a really hard source. And the sun was giving us a little bit, but then the other issue is that our background was more white, closer to white, so it was harder to get that contrast and create those insane beams. About a week prior to this shoot, I was on a fitness shoot and we were playing in a black gym, all painted black and huge windows everywhere, but the sun was just throwing in that beautiful natural light and it was creating these amazing beams with the haze that we added into this place. So it was nuts to see it, like it just works so well. It was the sun hitting it directly, and this is kind of the vision that I had when I went into this. I was expecting the sun to punch through the window, but of course no pre-pro. It was gonna take us about an hour to 2 for it to finally beam like we wanted it to. And honestly, by the time we had everything set up, the sun was finally beaming through and creating a little bit of a light beam. Now, of course, we added a practical. We just brought in this lamp and added a B7C bulb, which I turned it to about like 20 something Kelvin. I was playing a lot with the Kelvin. The vibe that I wanted was this kind of like hard source coming from our window and still a little moody inside, kind of feeling like a beautiful golden morning vibe. On the second scene, we wanted to make it a very, very moody, basically a dark scene with some crazy colors going through the window, kind of the music video vibe. Because the window was getting light, now I had to duve the entire window. After duving it, I knew I had to punch that light in, so I actually ended up taping Pablo tubes to the window itself. My other option would have been using C-stands in order to control the Pablo tubes, but again, we didn't have the manpower or the time, and I figured it was just best gaffing these to the window and getting that light through the window. Yeah. The green Pablo tubes did the job though. They filled the room with that green light and they kept it locally through the windows, and the duve was enough to block out all the sun. Now I kept that practical on. I think I punched it up a little bit more just so it could feel a little bit more ambient kind of on the left side of frame, and it ended up working out. On our wide, I really like how this turned out. I decided to come in much closer and do a couple close-ups on some of these frames, and I felt like he was just too dark. It was just completely black void. Now I brought in a way light to just give a little spark in his eye since we had no catch light, and just a tiny bit of fill on his face since we had nothing. Now I think I heard this from Greg Fraser, but when he lights Moody stuff, if I'm not mistaken, he tries to add some form of light behind, just something that will separate your character from the black void. Now it could just be a small amount of light over there, just a little difference that will just add that separation from the background. So when I framed this close-up, I would try to get into that green area a little bit behind him, some of that light source that was bleeding onto the wall from the Pavo tube, and that I feel like helped separate him from that background, as well as the orange light that was kind of glowing back there. So yeah, I was pretty happy with this. Again, if I had the crew, I would have tinted this much better and put the lights on C-stand so I could move them around. As you can see on the close-up, we couldn't really hide it, but again, no time, no crew. Let's just keep going. On the last frame, our sun was basically gone. We ended up doing this more of a blue hour night scene, and I ended up pushing my camera to the 12,800 ISO because I wanted to just lift whatever I could outside. I rated it my EI a little bit lower. I do not recall what it was, but basically I just wanted to get more information out there. Now Nick had the idea of actually spraying the windows to make it look like it was raining. Now after spraying the water droplets, if you want the water to show, you must also backlight it, just like Haze. It needs some form of light behind the water so it will light it and you can actually see the droplets. Now we were so close to the window, there wasn't a lot of room outside, but fortunately Nick had a 60X available, which I just placed it outside, right of frame, and right outside the door. I didn't even aim it at him, I aimed it down at the ground just so we'd kind of get that street lamp vibe. Maybe it's the light that's right outside your doorway. So I figured this kind of played in the mix and it'd help us outline him a little bit. So yeah, I was pretty stoked with this result because it did kind of translate that whole rainy vibe. Now these were 3 lighting setups in one location. Let me know what you guys think. Which one was your favorite one? Did you guys enjoy the morning golden hour kind of vibe? Did you enjoy the night green punchy look, or did you like the more moody rainy vibe? Again, super last minute, no scouting, we just try to make something cool, and overall I'm pretty happy with what we did. I feel like every time I try to make a light test or so, I end up learning something, which when I'm on set, I'm gonna use these go-tos that I learned and stop trying some stuff that I tried and took me way too long to get it done. Now if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel. I will be making more lighting breakdowns. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you on the next video.